In a desperate age, the world screamed for a hero. But what it actually needed wasn't a hero at all. It was a dark mage. This world's goddess summoned an earthling with a knack for magic. His name was Kim Mjun. Her mission was to save the kingdom, and she'd do anything. Mjun was forcibly yanked into this world, and had no choice but to play along. But she offered him any reward for the demon king's head. The so-called goddess promised him riches, power, and even herself if Mjun succeeded. Driven by that one thing that motivates guys in every world, Mjun went to war. He nearly bought the farm, but after years, he finally did it. The people praised the hero, but it was the shadow mage who actually saved the world. The goddess had promised it all, but the truth was, this world didn't have what Mjun really wanted, which is why he craved returning to Earth. The goddess wasn't a fan of that idea, and threatened to yank his powers if he went back. Minjun said he'd gladly lose them just to return to his world. But once the restriction was lifted, he showed his true colors. The woman might be a goddess, but she was a fool to think he'd just hand them over. He made it clear his powers were earned through his own blood and sweat, and if she really wanted to steal them, she could try chasing him in the other world. Mjun stepped to the portal, warning that if they met in his world, she wouldn't make it out alive. And just like that, he vanished, leaving the furious blonde fuming. Mjun then reappears right in his bedroom and immediately snatches his phone. After escaping that dungeon hellhole, the feeling of holding it again brings him joy, but something is off. No signal, no internet. Meanwhile, a military unit is prepping for a raid. The squad asks Corporal Choy Inho why grunts like them are being deployed for a mission like this. Inho, just as clueless, tells him to ask the brass, reminding them that a corporal doesn't get top-secret info. Then he gives the signal, and the troops move out in perfect formation. It's been 2 years since Mjun was summoned, and that memory still bugs him. Thanks to autosync, his phone still works, but there's no one left to even call. As he steps outside, the empty streets, no Wi-Fi, and closed shops feel like a weird level-up Manhwa setting. The army unit spots a guy strolling casually, completely catching them off guard, while Mjun is busy ranting about how much Isgard sucked. The soldiers, convinced this area is off-limits, wonder why security isn't doing its job. They shout out to Mjun, who's caught off guard at first, but then figures they're just some recruits. He calmly tells them he's just passing by. But then the soldiers start screaming as a terrifying beast lunges for him. Mjun casually turns his head and spots a grotesque wolf charging right at him. Even as the soldiers scream for him to move, he doesn't flinch. That savage creature is going straight for the kill. He's clearly annoyed, wondering why this dumb mutt, one that wouldn't survive a single punch, is showing up now, of all times. But the second he tries summoning his powers, that cocky vibe vanishes fast. He can't access even a spark of his demonic energy. Left with no other choice, Mjun tackles the beast head-on, grabbing it bare-handed and slamming it into the ground like a rag doll. The soldiers are stunned, silent, watching the ground crack from Mjun's strike. The sheer force of it leaves them pale with disbelief. Locking eyes with the wolf, Mjun declares that even without his dark magic, he's no pushover. Sure, he might be weaker now, but no way some low-level beast is taking him down. That's when a memory pops up. That warrior who trained him like a psycho, making him lift boulders as if his life depended on it. The flashback sparks a weirdly fond memory of Isgard's brutal training. Still, he can't understand what a monster like that is doing out here. When he looks back at the soldiers, they're frozen solid with fear. Later, inside the jeep, the soldiers can't figure out why that lunatic went so hard on the wolf, smashing it like it owed him money. One guy mutters that something like that could get him locked up, but their superior had told them to just let it go. That's when one of the guys looks at Minjun and asks if he's seriously clueless about everything that's been going on. The so-called world traveler plays dumb, pretending he knows nothing, and keeping the whole otherworlder secret to himself. Deep down, though, he's not even sure this is the Korea he remembers. He has no idea what went down during those 2 missing years. He recalls dungeons first appeared when he was around 7, along with waves of terrifying monsters. He remembers how soldiers fought with everything they had. But alongside that chaos, something new emerged. Superhumans, known as the Awakened, like a real-life level-up manhwa. Their powers weren't just superhuman, they were on another level. The Awakened teamed up with a new military branch called the Hunter Corps, and together they mopped the floor with the monster hordes. So before Mjun got yoinked by that psycho goddess, there hadn't been any major threat that could endanger civilian zones. Suddenly, he gets a strange feeling about the game, so he checks his phone's signal again. That's when it hits him. The game server isn't completely offline yet, and that realization makes him furious. After going through hell, this is the nonsense he comes back to. To make matters worse, Sparky is itching to play, or at least confirm if the game's still active, but all he can do is rage at the network in frustration. Meanwhile, one soldier isn't buying the act. He doubts Minjun is really that clueless, especially with the world clearly going to hell. Still, after witnessing the kind of power this dude has, he starts to think maybe there's way more to him than meets the eye. Just then, Sparky speaks up, asking the soldier if game developers are even still around. Out of nowhere, he follows up with another bizarre question, whether people are evacuating safely and getting jobs in game studios or something. He even demands to know if all the buildings were wrecked, including the servers holding the game data. He's trying to get some answers, wondering why everything's turned into such chaos. The soldier says he'll explain and proudly mentions he got an A+ in monster theory and dungeonology back in college. Mjun is baffled that universities even offer courses like that now, but the soldier confirms it's hard to find decent instructors in that field. He goes on to explain the real crisis began about 2 years ago with a weird dungeon outbreak. Out of nowhere, dungeons started popping up more and expanding fast. Worst part, huge monsters began pouring into the human world non-stop. Eventually, the military couldn't hold things together and had to shut down some civilian areas. Since then, the army's been throwing everything they've got at the problem, using every method possible, but they're seriously understaffed. Throughout this, Mjun couldn't care less. The only thing on his mind is whether game companies are still running. All this dude wants is to play Dungeon Power Fighter again. When someone asks his age, Mjun just says 21. That instantly tells the soldier he's prime time for the draft, warning him that half his 20s are about to just vanish. Sparky is floored, blurting out that the Hunter Corps served 5 years, while regular troops only do 3. But the soldier quickly shuts that down. Under current conditions, every soldier serves for 5 years, no exceptions. If Mjun is really 21, he should have already gotten his draft notice. The manaless loser feels like the universe just punched him in the gut. He was hoping for a little peace and game time, but nope, life throws him straight into the blender. He's still trying to process all of this. And now the thought of losing 5 whole years without logging into the server once is making his head spin. Suddenly, he gets a ping from military manpower, officially assigning Kim Mjun to report to the recruit training center. Sparky is totally dumbfounded, especially since the enlistment date is literally tomorrow. He starts wondering if the military just spams these things out now. The timing is way too perfect. That gets the soldier laughing. He says Gang 1 is notorious for doing that kind of crap. At this point, Mjun is losing it, yelling how this could happen without a medical check. The soldier explains they're so low on personnel that physicals are now done right at the training site. As for the notice, he probably just saw it late. Still, the guy suggests checking out the PC room near the evac center, just in case. Then it clicks. Back when Minjun's parents disappeared, games were the only thing filling the void. And it was during his final year of high school that he got summoned to Isgard, that forgotten paradise of mankind. Now sitting in a PC cafe, Mjun sheds tears of joy as he plays Dungeon Power Fighter again. He's completely lost in the comfort of those little gaming booths. Everything still works just like he remembers. Sparky feels like worshipping the shop owner for keeping it running during the middle of an apocalypse. Out of nowhere, he orders a hot dog. The waitress just stares at him, wondering how much this dude can possibly eat. After his epic gaming session, Mjun slowly snaps back to reality, questioning if his life is now a level-up manhwa. He pulls up a browser and starts digging through news articles, trying to wrap his head around the current situation. That's when he sees the report. Monster-related damage is up 48% compared to the previous year. Meanwhile, the Hunter Corps is doing its best to protect civilians. As attacks keep rising and the government scrambles for solutions, Mjun starts believing every single word the soldier said. Guy said, including the part about being drafted by the military. Now, that message had clearly stated he was shipping out tomorrow. Mjun can't help but think if he just had his powers from Isgard, he'd have soloed every dungeon like the hero in a level-up manhwa. But for some reason, his body is completely tapped of demonic energy. He felt drained of his main magical source. Still, with the raw physical strength he still has, he figures he might just be able to solo those dungeons. Anyway, his intense aura filled the room, making everyone stare at this total maniac. With a wicked laugh, Mjun decides he'll just handle everything himself. The next day, our dimension hopper strolls into the training center, snack in hand. He's weirdly pumped to see so many guys enlisting today, though everyone else looks miserable, hugging their loved ones goodbye. Then suddenly, an announcement calls for all new recruits to assemble in the auditorium. Mjun raises an eyebrow, wondering if this will actually be harder than Isgard. Inside, the drill sergeants are absolutely brutal, barking at the new recruits to get on their feet and yelling at them for moving like snails. One screaming to keep their posture straight and not look back, while another demands they shove the person in front of them. Mjun can't help but find these instructors weirdly polite compared to the absolute psycho who trained him back in Isgard. After a while, the battalion commander takes the stage, asking if anyone applied for the Hunter Corps but didn't get selected to raise their hand. He explains the treatment is massively different between the Hunter Corps and regular troops. Hunters start with a base pay of 3 million won, which definitely gets some heads turning. When no one moves, the commander is about to continue until he spots one volunteer. Mjun is told to step forward, and he decides this is his moment to shine. Without hesitating, he launches into the air, cracking the floor from the sheer force of his takeoff. He lands perfectly beside the commander, leaving everyone totally stunned, with their jaws practically on the floor. That's when he introduces himself confidently, saying, Kim Mjun, applying for the Hunter Corps. Back in Isgard, deep in the forgotten canyon of the north, the mountains were riddled with caves, each darker and more twisted than the last. It's there that Mjun accepted the brutal reality that being a dark mage is a job with endless torment. No character class has it worse than this. Sure, dark mages come with insane skills, but once they're out of fuel, they're completely useless. All that is left is a body barely holding itself together, stuck in a role that grinds you down to nothing. It is not like mana, which naturally restores over time like it does for normal mages. For dark mages, the only way to get it back is by defeating monsters using demonic energy. But even then, restoring dark energy while using it is a total grind. It is super inefficient and hardly worth the effort. On top of that, Mjun could never find reliable party members since dark mages had such a terrible reputation, so, if Mjun ever ran out of dark energy, he was basically a sitting duck, as good as toast down there. He wonders what the best way for a dark mage to get his demonic energy back is. Too bad. This dude's so ridiculously lonely. No one's around to answer his pop quiz or his sob story, except a pile of monster carcasses. He starts to think, maybe it's because everyone else is already dead. Suddenly, he hears something sneaking up on him. Turns out, it's the Forgotten Canyon's hidden boss, Arachnist. This freaky, giant spider beast crawls out while Minjun casually thinks, hey, maybe the dungeon boss could have answered his question. He even says she should have shown up earlier since he was literally dying of boredom. As Arachnist spots her crushed babies all over the floor, she lets out a terrifying shriek. Minjun just shrugs, joking that her breath stinks. So, no reply needed. Then, without a single shred of hesitation, he smashes a fist into her face and says, wrong answer. With demonic energy just pouring out of him, Minjun says the answer is actually simple. Just beat the monster with totally maxed out strength. That day, Mold, who's really Kim Mjun, reached the pinnacle of dark magic in Isgard, 645 days before returning to Earth. Now, back in the present, the commander confirms his name is Kim Mjun, and tells him to wait until the Hunter Corps unit shows up. Minjun's just chilling, secretly stoked that a commander is casually making him coffee. Then the commander asks if there's a special reason he wants to join the Hunter Corps. He's obviously weirded out by this kid, especially since many Hunter Corps members are ditching and going back to the regular army, even with their powers, now that it's getting worse out there. With a slight smirk, Minjun just says he's got business in the dungeons, which leaves the commander totally speechless. A second later, the commander just bursts out laughing, thinking Minjun's dungeon line was just a joke. He even tells him he won't be charged for wrecking the auditorium floor. Little did he know, this guy wasn't joking one bit. In Korea, all dungeons are run by the military, and the Hunter Corps, a highly skilled unit, gets top priority for investigating those dungeons and handling monster subjugation. Like some level-up manhwa, members rank up by ability, so there's no limit to how fast someone can rise through the ranks if they have the juice. By enlisting, Minjun gets his official license to enter dungeons and take out the trash inside using his demonic energy. Then, he starts daydreaming about blazing through the ranks and recovering his lost powers. The thought alone makes this scheming maniac chuckle, imagining hitting 10 stars in 5 years, clearing every last dungeon. That would buy him just enough time for Dungeon Power Fighter to release its fourth awakening, while he soaks up the glory and the big paycheck of being a public hero. Just then, Sergeant Lee Sung-ho of the Hunter Corps reports to the commander, greets him warmly, introducing Minjun as the new guy. Minjun's totally stunned to see a battalion commander speaking so formally to a sergeant. Sung-ho turns to Minjun and bluntly asks if he actually has powers. If he is a natural-born hunter, he should have a status window. So the sergeant insists that Sparky read out all his stats. Stats. Minjun wonders if all Hunter Corps guys are this pushy, but whatever. He caves and does what they ask. Come to think of it, he recalls a status window back in Isgard too, but he barely ever used the thing that only showed numbers and stats. Now, the guy's actually curious how the status window works in this world. But the second it pops up, he's completely thrown. Sunho immediately presses him, asking what he's seeing, but Minjun just gives him a nervous grin. With an awkward chuckle, he says the window's showing an error. Sunho's face freezes, like his brain just glitched trying to process what he heard. Somewhere in Yonggi-do, at the Hunter Corps Training Center, a commander starts some small talk, saying he last saw her in Han. It's been 10 years. He admits he never imagined running into Sean Yun-so here. She quickly corrects him, saying she's not a hunter yet, just a new recruit who enlisted today. Still, she wants to know if she's only being called in because of her dad's status, making it clear she wants zero special treatment during training. The commander laughs it off, assuring her it has nothing to do with General Sun, and that she won't be getting any free passes, either. He also reminds her that the Hunter Corps isn't some cakewalk, which her father must have mentioned. With such a renowned rookie enlisting, the commander figured he'd offer a few words of encouragement before the girl gets totally swamped. He knows it couldn't have been easy for her to enlist as a regular soldier instead of an executive, saying they're always short on people like her. So, he thanks her as a citizen and as a soldier. Meanwhile, Yun-so is clearly embarrassed, but she politely thanks the commander. Just then, a van pulls up, and the commander lets her know she might meet an interesting comrade on board. He asks if she wants to go greet him together, which catches her completely off guard. Meanwhile, Minjun is pumped to finally step into the Hunter Corps Training Center. The building's massive, and he's not even sure how much taxpayer money went into it. So, his first question is whether there's a PC room. Sunho throws shade at this weirdo, telling him not to get too excited since he's not officially in the Hunter Corps yet. Just because he's a special case, Sunho is stuck testing him out. That arrogant tone really ticks Sparky off, and he's ready to chew this jerk out. According to Sunho, he'd have already dumped Minjun back in Yongcheng if the head office hadn't specifically requested a test. Furthermore, Sunho adds that once he proves Minjun is a total fraud, he'll be handed over to the military police without a second thought. Minjun is not loving this guy's attitude. He's way too uptight and full of himself, but he keeps his cool and demands to know the test details. That's when Sunho shows off a giant red crystal, a classic trope in any level-up manhwa, and says if he can move it an inch within 10 minutes, he'll pass. The soldier says he's ready to see if this so-called talent is worth the hype for joining the Hunter Corps. The red stone is no ordinary rock. It's a byproduct formed inside dungeons, known for being insanely dense, hard, and heavy, making it pretty much impossible for any average recruit to even budge. Minjun strolls past Sunho, casually saying he's glad the test is this easy, which definitely bruises Sunho's ego. Sunho knows it's a dumb way to measure a status window, but he gets the point. There have probably been plenty of frauds with mediocre abilities trying to sneak into the Hunter Corps, so this kind of test weeds out the fakes. Meanwhile, Sunho heard rumors this guy jumped 5 meters straight onto the podium, but the whole status window error thing still doesn't add up. A few others are watching Minjun's test now, including Commander Choy and Inho. Choy figures this guy probably flexed some insane physical skills to the battalion commander at the training center just to get here this fast. He also tells Yun-so that Minjun's status window came up with an error. The old man has never heard of anything like that, but he's got high hopes for this new recruit. Minjun stares at the red stone, instantly remembering it from his time in Isgard. That ridiculously heavy rock was scattered all over the dungeons there, but a chunk this size, he could move it without breaking a sweat. He gets hyped, packing a punch, wondering if maybe this thing stores some demonic energy, too. So, the brute winds up and smashes the entire stone to pieces in one shot. Too bad though. It turns out it's got nothing. Commander Choy and Inho are left with their jaws on the floor in pure shock. Even Sergeant Sunho looks like his eyes might pop out, calling Minjun a monster, straight from a level-up manhwa. Later, Naman-hook is completely out of breath, drenched in sweat as he drags himself up the stairs with the other recruits. Before joining the Hunter Corps, he knew the training wouldn't be normal, but now he's really feeling something is off. Once the training period ends, they'll be heading into real combat, but before that, they're stuck with 4 weeks of absolute hell. That means strapping on sandbags from the very first session and climbing the infamous 6,000 steps. As if things weren't already brutal, there's this devil of an instructor, Sergeant Lee Sunho, constantly breathing down their necks. He checks their finishing times. That much was expected, but this kind of crude physical training only boosts their stats a little, and it's pushing most of the recruits to the edge of collapse. Naman-hook always figured Hunter Corps recruits had to endure a lot and just suck it up, but now he's not so sure about this lunatic running the show. Meanwhile, Minjun's having the time of his life, running like he's some kind of free elf. Naman-hook is starting to question whether the problem is them, not him. Minjun feels like his body is floating on air, and if he still had his demonic energy, he swears he'd be flying. He actually finds this so-called hellish hunter corps training kind of sweet. The military uniforms look stylish compared to the rags he wore in Isgard. And the food is way better than expected. Even the schedule's a win. Once the evening roll call is done, they get actual free time and can crash for the night. Also, he heard there's a PC room right inside the facility, and it's apparently just as good as anything out in the city. As long as he follows the rules, no one's going to bother him during his free time. Though, Minjun had every intention of ditching the place if it turned out to be a drag. It turns out the Hunter Corps has its perks. Everything he could want: tough drills, great food, solid pay, and even gaming time. He bolts up the stairs, yelling that the Hunter Corps is the absolute best. Inhyuk, still gasping for air, can't figure out what kind of fuel this insane monster runs on. In an instant, Shung-ho is left completely floored, seeing Minjun reach the top way faster than expected. Usually, it takes about 1 hour for the average recruit to make the climb, but this dude crushed it in record time. Minjun's up there enjoying the view, dancing around Shung-ho and reminding him of the promise: finish under 30 minutes, you get an outing pass. With no other choice, Shung-ho hands it over while Minjun plots where to use it. Shung-ho cracks a smile, wondering if any recruit has ever actually gotten an outing pass. Still, he knows that high stats or raw strength alone are not enough. The real test is how fast someone reacts to monsters. That's what really matters in the Hunter Corps, and for that reason, he vows to keep a close eye on Kim Mjun. Meanwhile, the other recruits are whining, grumbling about how impossible it is to handle this kind of training daily. Then, Inhyuk suddenly yells out that his stats went up by 1, and the others quickly rally around to congratulate him like it's a huge win. Now everyone's checking their stats, and Minjun is straight up shocked seeing how hyped they are over just 1 stat point. This dude can't help recalling his brutal guard training, where he was forced to earn 10 stat points a day, like in some crazy level-up manhwa, like it was nothing. Meanwhile, one guy asks if Minjun's using his outing pass, but he's not so sure. The others look at him with envy, saying an instructor told them no one has ever earned an outing pass from Sergeant Shung-ho until him. Suddenly, everyone's crowding him, throwing out questions about his workout and how he got so strong. Minjun's caught off guard by the scene, realizing people are actually talking and laughing with him. This is totally new. Back in his guard as a dark mage, everyone avoided him like the plague. Simply walking by him was considered bad luck. But here, it's different, and communication isn't so bad. These guys are already making plans to hit the PC room, which gets Minjun all excited. He's even more shocked to learn the PC room is open now. Now that's a win. While enjoying the PC room, the clock hits 9, and Minjun figures it's time for 2 hours of sleep. Back in his guard, even getting 1 hour was a total luxury, so 2 hours felt like a full-on hibernation. With that kind of rest, he's sure he can recover enough energy to keep grinding games every day. The others in the room are stunned, watching this absolute maniac still playing that game. Next up, the recruits get hit with another brutal drill, with no extra distance, but they must maintain a consistent speed. Anyone who fails to complete 40 kilometers within 2 hours gets no breakfast. Later, Minjun casually gloats about hitting 10 max levels yesterday, which ticks off Inhyuk, who's struggling to breathe. He's annoyed that this guy from a level-up manhwa isn't even sweating. What's even wilder is that the guy's been gaming all night, only getting 2 hours of sleep in the last 4 weeks. When asked how he's even standing, Minjun just grins, gets everyone's attention, and says he brought enough water to share with his comrades. The dude completely loses it, praising his insane stamina and calling him his dear comrade. They're all dying for a sip of what now feels like a mythical elixir. The guys are lining up like baby chicks, waiting for Minjun to pour a little water into their mouths. In the middle of this, someone suddenly calls for attention, and it's Lee dropping the bomb that the lieutenant is seriously disappointed in all of them. It's the final week, and only half the recruits have actually met the standard. He straight up calls them the most pathetic squadron in history. Minjun just wonders why this old guy is talking in the third person like some ancient sage. But Lee's not done yet. He throws shade, saying if they get deployed after training, half of them are heading for an early grave. That kind of mindset, he says, is a one-way ticket to the other side. He boldly claims no one will survive the final training stage, the infamous dungeon assessment training. Normally, once all the monsters in a dungeon are wiped out, it disappears. But some don't vanish. They become what's called a transforming dungeon. These dungeons constantly shift their internal structure, changing their layouts and environments on the regular. This makes them the perfect spot for trainees to get some real-world dungeon experience. And that hardcore simulation is what they call the dungeon assessment training. Just hearing the name sends chills down the recruits' spines, so they know this is going to be brutal. With Lee cranking up the tension, he seems to enjoy this, saying recruits must be handled like racehorses. For real discipline, you need a heavy whip to keep them in line before you toss them a carrot. He promises they'll make it through if they just use their brains. To sweeten the pot, he announces the recruit with the highest score will get a 2-night, 3-day vacation pass. The old man thinks this reward will light a fire under them, like some real-life level-up manhwa. He asks if the news doesn't make their blood boil, but the recruits just stare blankly as he taps the stage like a crazy person. Nobody responds. He's trying to hype them up, but it's like talking to a wall. That is, until he sees one guy who looks genuinely thrilled, which just makes the rest of them even more nervous. The next day, the whole squad shows up, their jaws on the floor, stunned by how massive the dungeon is. Minjun, on the other hand, couldn't care less. On the day of the dungeon assessment, the recruits are a mess of nerves, wondering what kind of nightmare is waiting inside. Suddenly, a jeep rolls onto the scene, scaring the crap out of everyone. They're all thinking, why would a military truck be out here, of all places? Their panic spikes when they realize the jeep is loaded with cages, and inside those cages are actual monsters. With terrifying growls echoing from the cages, the recruits quickly realize they're filled with hounds. Sends a chill down their spines. One guy even faints from shock, while another is already plotting his great escape. Meanwhile, Minjun just sees them as big puppies, mentally comparing them to chihuahuas or Maltese dogs. Lee is absolutely fuming, watching the recruits shake at the sight of monsters they're supposed to be trained to fight. He orders them to form teams of 4 and charge into the transforming dungeon, where they must defeat a hound within 1 hour and get back. He lays down the rules. If they get hurt, they'd better work on their core strength. If they're scared, they should use their heads and fight with grit. Shangho then steps up to announce that they'll be going in one by one, so it's time to gear up and move out. Next is the Hunter Corps' exclusive safety suit, the Mid-2, designed to protect their bodies in battle. Once everyone slips into the gear, they start trembling like scared chickens, wondering if anything is tougher than this armor. Meanwhile, Minjun is silently judging the suit, thinking it's crazy, uncomfortable, and obviously built only for defense. He can't believe this stiff, clunky thing costs around 50 million. From the smell alone, he figures these suits have been used to heck and back, soaked in everyone's passion and sweat. That's when Sparky throws out a bold question, asking if after they take down the hounds, they can ditch these suits. At first, Lieutenant Lee looks baffled by the idea, but seeing it's Minjun, the #1 recruit, he gives in and grants permission. Still, Lee doesn't let him off that easy. He reminds Minjun that he's not allowed to steal the whole show. He must show real teamwork, like in some level-up manhwa, and now everyone's watching how the top recruit handles things when it comes to looking out for others. As for defeating a hound, Sparky acts like the whole thing is a walk in the park, claiming he just needs to tell his teammates what to do. Suddenly, Minjun yells out that he's got the perfect plan. 2 guys actually lean in, curious to hear it. But then this weirdo casually drops the most brutal advice ever. Just grab the hound by the legs and snap its back. That should do the trick, if it jumps at them. And if the beast survives that, he says to just fold its back and rip it apart. After delivering that horrifying strategy, Sparky demands to know if they got it. The recruits just stare at him in stunned silence, completely speechless. Just then, Lee shouts at the sergeants to release the hounds, and Shangho yanks open the cage doors, unleashing the beasts. But instead of attacking, the menacing creatures bolt straight back into the dungeon. Minjun casually points out the wolves probably just saw the door to their home and made a run for it. Surprisingly, his logic clicks, and the recruits start praising his sharp mind for figuring out the hound's psychology so fast. Suddenly, Lee storms over, demanding to know if they really have the nerve to just stand around laughing on this holy training ground. That roar knocks the wind out of everyone. Lee then drops the bomb that they are the first team going in. It doesn't matter to Minjun, but the other 3 are mentally short-circuiting from shock, absolutely stunned to be thrown in first. With no time to process it, they march toward the dungeon gate. For Sparky, the only real motivation is getting this annoying suit off the second he finishes the job. And with that, Lee announces the start of the training, alerting the instructor team to be on standby and monitor everything closely. Their job is to control the situation if things get out of hand, and the instructor team keeps a sharp eye on the trainees from their cover. One of them quietly reports to Corporal Kim Mjun that only a single team of 4 is entering, with no other parties involved. That's when he spots a familiar face, none other than Kim Mjun, the recruit marked for special attention. He is the one who's been showing seriously promising powers lately, with top-tier scores for the past 4 weeks. But the real question is whether this kid can back up those numbers inside a chaotic dungeon. There is no doubt about it. The first team is fired up and raring to go, already showing signs of impatience as they get ready to pounce. Minjun feels like this whole thing is a cakewalk, thinking he could easily take the hounds out with a quick smack to the head. But then again, if he solos them all, the others won't get any experience, and that wouldn't be fair. He figures he's just being super considerate. Right then, he alerts the group that hounds are on the way, and sure enough, a pack of them sneaks into view. His teammates are already starting to freak out, but Minjun tells them to chill since they're wearing ridiculously tough protective suits. He decides to take the lead, perhaps to set an example. As soon as a hound lunges at him, he lands a brutal punch that drops the beast instantly. Another hound goes right for another recruit, biting his arm as the poor guy screams for help. Without missing a beat, Minjun kicks the hound off him, taking it out too. Then, like some kind of coach, he starts schooling them, telling the group they need to fight back when the hounds attack. If they act scared, the monsters will take advantage and treat them like easy prey. He also tells them to drop the honorifics since they're comrades now. Honestly, he knows two guys would have been goners if this wasn't just a training exercise. But since they have numbers, they need to use that to their advantage and push back hard. It'll throw the hounds off and turn the tables in their favor. Now the team is taking the lead with Minjun calling the shots, instructing them to corner the hound and wait for the perfect moment when it drops its guard. Meanwhile, the instructor team is watching this all unfold in disbelief, wondering if this guy is really just a rookie. They never expected to see green trainees launching themselves at hounds and taking out beasts like it's nothing. Thanks to Minjun, the squad is pushing past their fear and actually fighting back. Instructors even wonder if this lunatic is one of those rare cases, like a Hunter Corps sergeant, who somehow went back to the day before his enlistment. The kind of story you only read in a level-up manhwa. But what stands out even more than his strength is how Minjun leads the team. He's encouraging his squad, keeping them focused, and coordinating the fight with real strategy. That leadership nets him the group's highest score, while the rest settle for average marks. Corporal Kim Mjun appears with his sidekick and officially clears the first team, has passed the test. On the way out, Minjun keeps bugging Hojun about winning the vacation pass, but Hojun shuts him down fast. Minjun jokes they were worried sick, calling the instructors a bunch of tsunderes, which ticks Hojun off. Just then, something feels off. The ground rumbles, and Hojun senses it too, immediately ordering contact with the outside. But Minjun isn't even fazed, casually pointing out this isn't an earthquake. It's the dungeon itself transforming, like a level-up manhwa. That's when they see the exit is closing right before their eyes. With the exit now sealing itself shut, the recruits are totally freaking out, shouting and asking what is happening. Even Hojun's face says it all. They're in serious trouble. But Minjun already knows it's far too late to leave. The exit gate completely vanishes, leaving Hojun in total shock. They had made sure the transformation process was a monthly cycle, so this sudden shift makes zero sense. The dungeon's entire internal structure is starting to change. To make things worse, the radio is dead, cutting off all communication. Looks like the dungeon transformed way too fast. For now, the instructor team decides to focus on getting the recruits to safety. After finding a relatively danger-free spot, Hojun gathers everyone and explains that there's been an unexpected incident inside the dungeon. While his teammate stays alert, watching the surroundings, he tells the group not to worry, saying they'll wait in place for 1 hour to see if the dungeon entrance reopens as the manual says. The recruits totally buy Hojun's speech, relieved to think this ordeal will be over with soon. They're just glad they won't be trapped here forever. To pile on the comfort, Hojun adds that people outside are probably already assessing the situation and preparing to send help. He also reassures them that the lieutenant will take the proper steps, so they just need to stay calm and wait instead of panicking. But Minjun is quietly judging the corporal, not buying a single word. He's sure they picked this training spot after thoroughly confirming there wouldn't be any unexpected surprises. What's even more suspicious is how the always open dungeon entrance just randomly closed up out of nowhere. Suddenly, Corporal Kim Mjun motions to him for a private word, and Minjun calmly realizes these guys know full well the situation's looking grim. There's no manual for something like this, and if the dungeon has really become an enclosed dungeon, then it's going to be way tougher to clear. This manaless guy still remembers seeing this back in Isgard, but it's not a big deal, especially with him here now. Meanwhile, Hojun admits, this is the worst-case scenario. They're definitely in an enclosed dungeon. His buddy is clueless and freaking out, clearly not trained for this kind of disaster. Then, Hojun breaks down the two special cases when a dungeon entrance just disappears. The first is when the dungeon dissipates naturally after being cleared, and the second is when it becomes an enclosed dungeon where the gate vanishes the moment someone enters from outside. Just like that, this one's sealed tight, which also means more than one monster will spawn. The only escape now is by defeating every single monster trapped inside. Plus, Hojun. He lays it out for his teammate. No cavalry's coming. They're stuck and gotta punch their own way out of this. With 4 rookies who've never seen a real fight and just 2 instructors, they'll have to clear this dungeon all by themselves. After Hojun drops the bad news, the recruits, predictably, start freaking out. Worse, Hojun has no clue what monsters are lurking in here, so things could get ugly, real fast. Still, standing around is a death sentence. They gotta move while they can. He kicks himself for not gearing up. They just waltzed in, wearing tracksuits to watch the kids. At this rate, a few goblins could end them, considering it takes Hojun a whole 10 minutes to off one. Then he looks back and remembers the recruits are still rocking those Hunter Core safety suits. He figures they can use the suit's defenses as their most realistic strategy right now. Stick the recruits in front to tank the damage while the instructors hit from the back. Solid plan, but the thought of using kids as meat shields makes his stomach churn. They've gone through so much brutal training and trusted the instructors to protect them. His pride just won't let him turn those kids into monster chow. While Minjun's acting all cool and collected, his teammates are losing their minds, especially since this whole mess drops on them during their final week of training. Suddenly, the mana-sensitive weirdo senses something's wrong, and the instructor asks, "What's up?" That's when Hojun just starts screaming like he's being choked from the inside. His partner runs over, blowing past Minjun's warning to stay away, yelling that there's nothing he can do. But the guy dives in to check on Hojun, only to feel the exact same thing hit him, and he drops to the floor. Right then, Minjun steps up and takes charge, ordering the team to stay back, or they'll end up just like the instructors. As he checks on the 2 of them, he realizes they just passed out and aren't in mortal danger yet. Turns out, Sparky smelled something familiar earlier. Just then, Minjun yeets the instructors at the recruits, telling them to catch and guard them by the exit. He makes it crystal clear, don't follow him, no matter what. One of the recruits tries to talk some sense into him, asking what he can do when even the instructors are out cold, totally shaken, and pleading with him not to go alone, but Minjun just charges deeper into the dungeon without hesitation. Fully aware that this death-defying risk is a thrill, like he's the star of a real-life level-up manhwa on Earth. He's confident the real reason the instructors collapsed is the presence of demonic energy. And honestly, he isn't even surprised, knowing that even awakened instructors can pass out from this stuff. Heck, even back in Isgard, people get special protection before facing monsters juiced with demonic energy. That's because this stuff is way more lethal to normal humans. But for a dark mage, it's like plugging in a dead phone. It's their power source. After booking it through the dungeon, Minjun finally hits the spot where this overwhelming demonic energy is radiating out. The place is dead silent, no monsters in sight, but that only makes him grin. He looks up at the ceiling, knowing full well something this nasty and soaked in. Darkness could never hide from a dark mage's senses, and there it is. He can feel it. He never thought he'd run into a beast like the Dark Hound here of all places. But make no mistake, this isn't just another version of the regular hounds. Despite the similar names, the Dark Hound is a completely different breed, and leagues more dangerous. The first time Minjun came across one in Isgard was about a year after he got summoned. Back then, he barely made it out alive. Even the monster guides on Earth wouldn't dare go near this thing. It's that brutal. The Dark Hound lunges straight from the ceiling, but Minjun doesn't even flinch. He just stands there, almost relieved to see a familiar face. With a smirk, he thanks the beast for the meal, and then plants a jaw-shattering punch right into its face, launching the monster backward like a rag doll. The Dark Hound hits the ground hard, its face bleeding, and teeth shattered, while Minjun's eyes glint with hunger for its demonic energy. Even with the satisfying blow, the scent of blood in the air is thick and sickening. But he doesn't mind. It only means the recharge is about to begin. Though the scent of blood is still nasty, the insane amount of demonic energy spilling out after the Dark Hound's death is the real deal. That's exactly why taking down a beast like this isn't easy. Its venomous blood is no joke. If an ordinary human even comes in contact with it, their skin would start to rot on the spot. But none of that applies to a dark mage. As the demonic energy flows out of the Dark Hound, Minjun absorbs it all with a smug look on his face. As Minjun absorbs the demonic energy juice, he knows all the crazy side effects that come with it don't affect a dark mage at all. The dude's thrilled to finally absorb demonic energy after such a long time, feeling like he's around 5% charged now. Still, he can't wrap his head around why a Dark Hound from Isgard would show up in a place like this. He figured monsters on Earth might have some demonic energy, but seeing the instructors faint like that raises serious questions. He doubts they've ever encountered something like this before. There was never any mention of demonic energy or dark hounds during monster education back at the training center, and a dark hound managing dimensional travel is out of the question. That's a plot from a level-up manhwa. Only someone like him, who's reached the peak of dark magic, could pull off something like that. Or maybe only a saint who can use God's power could pull it off, since it's not an ability just anyone can access. Minjun wonders if he's just overthinking this, or if this really is the first time a dark hound has appeared in Korea. Either way, he decides to find the core and file a report, and eventually he does. Meanwhile, Hojun slowly opens his eyes, and the recruits are all buzzing with relief to see him regaining consciousness. They crowd around, asking if he's okay, but both instructors suddenly sit up straight, scaring the life out of their juniors. Hojun immediately demands a full update, checking if anyone's hurt, or if anything happened while they were out. The juniors admit they thought the two went all zombie-eyed for a sec, but they swear they're fine. Then they drop the bomb. Minjun ran deeper into the dungeon all by himself. That news totally floors Hojun, and when the recruits explain what went down after he and his partner blacked out, Hojun's face contorts with rage. He's livid that Minjun went rogue in a situation this dangerous, grinding his teeth at the thought. A stunt like that is more than enough to get someone booted from the program. Still, he feels he has no room to talk, especially after conking out instead of protecting the juniors. But then reality hits him. He has to go after Minjun and drag him back. Just as he's about to bolt, a junior suddenly yells out, pointing ahead. To everyone's total shock, Minjun strolls in like nothing happened, casually hauling the dead dark hound. This guy, in his own level-up manhwa, even asks if everyone's doing alright, like it's just another Tuesday. The instructors freeze, their jaws practically on the floor, their brains short-circuiting at the beast's sheer size. They can't even begin to process how the heck this kid took it down solo. Without missing a beat, Minjun plops the massive hound down and tells them to check it out. The instructors get a closer look, and it clicks. This beast is the real reason they passed out. The recruits now get that the hounds they fought were just pups, and this thing was the real deal. No one can believe Minjun soloed such a huge beast. Then, right on cue, the dungeon gate flickers and reappears in the exact same spot. Still trying to process this, Hojun turns to Minjun and asks if he really took that thing down himself. Minjun just nods with that same maddeningly calm smile. Hojun tells his partner to get the recruits out first, promising to follow right behind. Then, pulling Minjun aside, he orders him to report every single detail of what went down to the lieutenant. That includes how both instructors passed out and left the recruits totally on their own. Hojun knows they have no excuses, even if it means getting tossed in the brig. But thanks to Minjun, everyone got back alive without a scratch. Sparky smirks, saying Hojun is being kinda cringy right now, but Hojun insists a real man owns his mistakes. With that, he declares it's time to ditch this cursed place. Still, Hojun can't figure out what made him lose consciousness, already dreading a sleepless night over it. Meanwhile, Minjun's just hung up on the fact that he got a huge compliment during his final week of training. As he turns to leave, a system window suddenly pops up right in his face with a message, "Error resolved." Minjun just stares at the screen, totally baffled, muttering that he has no clue what this even means. He curses, calling this thing a piece of junk, like the one from Isgard. But then the screen refreshes, naming him the cult founder of Lumi Nuna, followed by his stats. Strength, agility, and stamina are all at 60, and demonic energy at 10. His only skill is corruption, ranked E. The numbers don't faze him much, but this whole level-up manhwa setup feels wrong, especially that Lumi Nuna part. Lumi is his absolute favorite character, a character from Dungeon Power Fighter, the same game he played just to kill time. Back in Isgard, when he had reached the peak of his dark magic and got fed up with crazy fanatics following him, he started this joke cult around Lumi, just to ditch them. Now, somehow, the punchline followed him here. Everyone once begged Minjun to take over the world, but to get rid of them, he ended up making Lumi Nuna's fan club. The plan backfired spectacularly. It just created more lunatics who worshipped him. Now that he's looking at his current stats, Minjun realizes just how pathetically weak he's become. When he first came back without any demonic energy, he assumed there'd be a penalty for dimensional travel. Still, out of the huge list of skills he once had, only one remains, and that's corruption with a laughably low rank. At this point, he's sure the skill's effect might as well be a stomachache. This isn't some cheap level-up manhwa, but the sheer absurdity of it all makes him sick. There's no way he can achieve any of his goals like this. But then again, he once clawed his way to the top of the dark magic world in Isgard. If he did it once, he can do it again. This time, he even has a solid reason. He needs to regain his power fast so he can help the game company that's stuck in development hell, all thanks to monsters. But one thing is for sure, this isn't like the time in Isgard when he had no choice but to just endure. Now, he's got the game company waiting on him. That day, the entire training center was thrown into chaos after news broke that a training dungeon had sealed itself while a session was underway. On top of that, the lieutenant hadn't given any clear orders, and a mere recruit had taken down a newly found species of monster, while the instructors were blindsided by a whole string of unexpected events. The recruits, who were meant to get their private ranks and enjoy some freedom until dispatch, suddenly found themselves in the middle of a total mess. The juniors feel cursed, with no idea when their standby status will ever end, and this is all during their last week of training. At this point, they wouldn't even mind just sitting around watching TV. Lee Ho-chan turns to Park Jung-won and asks if Minjun really took out that massive hound all by himself. Jung-won's still hyped, saying he first thought it was a cow because it was so big. But yeah, Minjun wrecked it. Then they start wondering if Kim Mjun might make sergeant within 2 years. But someone points out that the Hunter Corps' advancement exams are no joke. Most guys apparently get discharged as corporals, even after serving the full 5 years. There are even some who leave with the rank of private first class. Afterward, Kim Mjun salutes as he meets Commander Choi and sees Lieutenant Lee Myanje standing there awkwardly. Choi casually tells Lee to step out, and the second he leaves, Choi just cracks up, saying the lieutenant got chewed out for not properly checking the dungeons. But cutting to the chase, Choi says there's something important they really need to talk about. Since Minjun got the highest score, he's got a special proposal ready and asks if he's interested in hearing it. A crane in a flock of chickens is an idiom used to describe someone who really stands out from the rest. Commander Choi is totally convinced that Kim Mjun is anything but ordinary, and he's honest, grateful to have witnessed someone like him in his lifetime. He never imagined he'd find a talent so exceptional that it makes even the good ones look like chickens in comparison. Choi says it would be a national loss to assign this kind of talent to the regular ranks when they're in desperate need of skilled personnel. He also mentions hearing that Minjun wants to advance quickly. Normally, a rule prevents privates from taking the promotional exam for at least 1 year, but when it comes to exceptions, that's a whole different story, and that part leaves Minjun a little stunned. That's when Commander Choi drops the bomb. He's got the authority as the training commander to grant Minjun that exception on one condition. He wants him to volunteer for the Hunter Corps stationed in Cheerwon. The old man even slams the table, shouting that Minjun wouldn't need to wait a whole year for a promotion if he heads there. An awkward silence settles between them. Choi starts wondering if Cheerwon might be pushing it, even for someone desperate to advance. Maybe this exception isn't a big enough carrot. Meanwhile, Minjun doesn't show a flicker of concern or interest. He's deep in thought, recalling that Cheerwon is home to the 104th Division of the Invincible Hunter Squad, the same place his comrades warned him to avoid. Like the plague, the weather's brutal, snow piles up endlessly, and dungeons and monsters pop up whenever they feel like it. It's labeled as one of the most extreme posts, but Minjun couldn't care less where he ends up as long as he advances fast. That promotion exception is a golden opportunity. Besides, the place is crawling with dungeons, which is actually perfect. For his plan to succeed, he needs to climb the ranks as quickly as possible. The higher the rank, the broader his range of action. Also, there's no better way to get promoted than by proving oneself inside the dungeons. With that, Kim Mjun gives a flat, unwavering, yes, he's in. Commander Choi is shocked to his core that this guy just agreed to head straight into Cheorwon, the land of brutal cold, and did it with that kind of bold spirit. Afterward, in the parking lot, a bunch of people are gathered near the vans. Commander Choi is bawling like a baby while seeing off Kim Mjun, begging him to get in touch as soon as he reaches his base. Minjun figures this old man's being dramatic, thinking he'll just get ghosted. Choi swears he won't, but Minjun clearly doesn't care. Still, the commander asks if he's seriously going to Cheorwon, wanting to know why he picked the one place everyone avoids. Minjun says his plan is too big for the old man to understand, adding that he's got a crazy goal. Choi jokes if it's a level-up Manhwa quest to hit max level 100 times, but Minjun casually says he just hit his 13th max level yesterday, so 100 isn't even a challenge. Choi and Minjun's ride pulls away. On the road, Minjun watches the loudest guy head off to his own base and starts wondering why he's suddenly riding solo. Out of the blue, an army jeep rolls up, calling for Kim Mjun, throwing him completely off guard. Behind the wheel is a guy in black shades, Kim Mjun, casually asking if the kid's been waiting long, saying the snow slowed him down. Minjun is stunned, not even realizing it had started snowing. Mjun tells him to hop in the back so they can head to the squad. Then, reality hits. He's officially starting his life as a soldier, but one thing's bugging him: hazing. He remembers all those TV shows where some top dog makes the new guy do insane stuff like find Dragon Balls or run pointless errands. Minjun knows he lacks the patience for that kind of crap, but figures he'll have to suck it up. On the way, Minjun realizes how dangerous things could get if he lost his cool and clocked a superior. That would be the end of his goals, landing him in military prison as a regular grunt. As they approach their destination, snow begins to fall on the van of the invincible Hunter Corps. Arriving at Gangwon-do, Cheerwon, at the Hunter Corps' 104th Division, 2nd Battalion, Minju and Minjun head inside. Minju swings a door open and shoves the newbie inside, telling the guys to feed him and show him the ropes. The soldiers inside are stunned, getting zero heads up, but when they see the newcomer, they erupt in laughter and cheers, thrilled to have some fresh meat around. As Minjun introduces himself, the squad realizes this is the dude from the rumors, the psycho who soloed the giant hound. One guy chucks Minjun's bag at Baldy, making him responsible for unpacking it. Minjun immediately pegs the two loudmouths as the dorm's alpha dogs, standing there with huge, goofy grins. It's like they just found a new toy and are dying to know why he picked this place when his top scores could have landed him a cushy rear line post. Minjun just thinks the front lines offer better experience and the fastest path to advancement. The guys stare at him like he's nuts, calling him crazy. They ask if he's got a sister or girlfriend, but Minjun says he's been solo since birth, curious to see his own potential. They pester him to show off his talent, and Minjun figures if it shuts them up, it's worth it. He drops for one-finger push-ups, but this annoys an alpha, who brags they could do that all day. The other tells Sergeant Cho to chill and let the kid show off. Then Minjun switches it up, doing vertical push-ups on his fingers, leaving the room stunned. It's like a scene from a level-up manhwa. No one thought they'd see that in real life. They wonder if anyone in their platoon can pull it off. Then they remember there is a certain sergeant who can. Suddenly, a fierce-looking soldier walks in, telling Sparky to get the hell out of his way. The alphas go pale and point at Minjun, revealing he's doing the vertical push-ups. That voice hits Minjun like a shockwave. He recognizes it instantly. It's Lee Yong-ho, Sergeant Lee Sung-ho. Has his jaw on the floor, seeing Kim Mjun standing there, here of all places. Minjun's just as thrown, never expecting to run into this guy, either. Right away, Sergeant Cho starts roasting Sung-ho out loud, asking why he's acting so wiped when he just got sent out as an instructor. The other guy chimes in, bringing up his so-called vacation for hazing rookies, asking how many days off he scored this time. Sung-ho doesn't even bother to respond, just giving them a lazy look and saying he got 4 days. That just fans the flames, and the two start whining about how he ruined their fun. Cho flips him off for it, calling him a total buzzkill. Meanwhile, Minjun's in the back, completely clueless about what is even happening as this chaos unfolds. Sunho, clearly over it, just lies down like he's clocked out and starts watching a live stream of a volcanic dungeon. The feed shows scorching terrain with high temperatures that deal non-stop damage. It's clear to Minjun now there is a massive difference in rank and experience between them. Out of nowhere, Sunho calls out Private First Class Lee Dong-jin and tells him to properly instruct his direct junior, who turns out to be none other than Minjun. Dong-jin walks over, introduces himself with a friendly vibe, suggesting they talk over food since he has a special pass to the post-exchange retail store. Minjun's low-key shocked. He had no idea they couldn't go there on their own. As they arrive, Dong-jin tells Minjun to go, but Dong-jin just waves it off and tells him to pick whatever it takes to fill him up. Minjun thinks this dude's actually pretty nice. But the moment Dong-jin goes to pay and sees the bill hit 30,000, the man starts sweating bullets, like his bank account just cried. Even the cashier jokes, asking if he's getting cold feet. While Minjun digs into his feast, he brings up the retail store situation, asking why they even need special passes. That is when Dong-jin explains that privates and private first-class soldiers can only use the store on weekends. He also needs to be a private first class to hit the gym and a corporal to use the PC rooms. Minjun nearly choked on his snack when he found out they have PC rooms here. Still, Dong-jin adds that is just how it is, and he cannot expect them to let a low-ranking private chill in a PC room, so he'd better get used to it. Minjun gets all fired up to change that system, but Dong-jin tells him flat out that to even think about it, he needs to reach corporal. Then he adds his own take, saying, in his opinion, a guy should be at least a sergeant before even trying for corporal. And honestly, that path's no joke. Minjun figures out real quick he can't just bend the rules here to suit himself. He's pretty bummed about the PC room ban, making him wonder about a shortcut to rank up, like in a level-up manhwa. Dong-jin, speaking from his own rough experience, admits he has failed the advancement exam so many times that he has been stuck as a private first class for the last 3 years. He calls himself pathetic, but Minjun tells him he will make it next time. The truth is, Minjun actually likes Dongjin's vibe, and wants him to rise through the ranks with him, so they can hit the PC room together. Right then, a big guy walks in, Sergeant Kim Gwonjik, who spots the two of them eating, and eyes their snacks. He casually asks if they are having something good. Dongjin invites him to join, and of course, the guy doesn't pass up free food. He plops down with them, grabs a handful of chips, cracks a soda, and between bites, he reassures them that he won't breathe a word about their little chat. However, Gwonjik warns them that if they're useless at firearms training tomorrow, they're as good as dead. He makes it clear he has no intention of letting Minjun coast through anything, and bluntly asks if the kid even knows how to shoot. Dongjin jumps in, saying he was just about to explain that firearms training here is a whole different ballgame. Gwonjik wasn't having it. He cocks an eyebrow, asking if Dongjin is implying he's being overly involved when the guy is supposedly doing fine. Then Gwangshik goes in hard, totally roasting him. If he's so good, why is he still stuck as a private first class? That dig gets on Minjun's nerves, so he quietly unleashes a bit of his demonic energy, just enough to mess with the dude. Gwangshik suddenly shoots up, looking like he ate something bad, and starts accusing the snacks of being off. Minjun tries not to laugh, watching the guy fumble with the chip bag, probably looking for the expiration date. Gwangshik, now clearly regretting his snack choice, waves them off, and tells the two to get moving. In that moment, Minjun realizes that, hey, maybe this corruption skill has more practical daily uses than he thought. Meanwhile, a clueless Gwangshik thinks his stomach just gave up on him out of nowhere. Next, Minjun gets Dongjun's attention and asks him for the lowdown on firearms training. Being a good guy, he's always ready to help, asking if Minjun has ever used the KX-2 with ICM rounds before. He explains that here they use bullets even more powerful than ICMs. Those are basically ponies in comparison. The ones the Hunter Corps uses are on a whole different level, more like wild stallions with a recoil and sound that hits like a cannon. Because of how often monsters show up, firepower is king in this unit. Dongjun warns that at first it might feel strange and even painful, and yeah, he's gonna get chewed out during training, but he assures Minjun that he'll get used to it in no time. The kid nods, kind of digging the whole pony to stallion metaphor. It fits perfectly, though. Still, he remembers seeing long-range weapons in Isgard that were on the level of an elephant. The thought of a wild stallion still gets him pumped. That elephant weapon couldn't even be called a firearm. It was practically a siege weapon. So now with that stallion comparison in mind, Minjun's all fired up for tomorrow's training. Meanwhile, Dongjin quietly wonders what's up with Sergeant Gwangshik and if his stomach has recovered. The next day, at the firearms training facility, loud bangs echo non-stop as soldiers aim at moving hound targets. When it's Minjun's turn, he misses once, but still lands 19 clean shots. The announcer totally loses it, calling him out like he's a machine. Everyone stares in disbelief, watching this private put on a clinic with his aim. They start whispering that he's a shooting monster, like a character from a level-up manhwa. Even Sergeant Cho, who boasts a personal best of 14 hits, a score that's already considered excellent in the squad, is floored by what he just saw. Meanwhile, two other big shots are watching from the sidelines. 2nd Battalion, 2nd Platoon Commander, 2nd Lieutenant Kim Mjun, is frozen in shock watching this kid rack up 19 hits. And next to him, 1st Sergeant Hote Task, the battalion's administration and supply officer, nods slowly, realizing the rumors about this elite private weren't just hype, they were deadly accurate. Now the top dog of the dorms demands to know how Minjun pulled it off, but the guy just shrugs and says he followed the instructions. That cool answer only ticks them off even more. Out of nowhere, Kim Mjun steps in, praising Minjun and telling him to keep showing his best. Minjun even mentions he's can't wait to see Minjun's performance this afternoon in the special firearms training. Sergeant Cho can't handle it, fuming that this newbie is even trying the special training, while his buddy throws shade at Minjun, accusing him of favoritism. The other guys start whispering that Minjun's so good he probably would have landed another vacation if he'd hit all 20. Meanwhile, the heavy shooter of the group turns to Dongjin, demanding to know what's so special about this elite training. Dongjin is still reeling from how this supposed newbie turned out to be a straight-up, first-class marksman. He explains that rookies aren't usually allowed in that training, since it uses improved conventional munitions bullets, basically, the big guns. The nice guy assures them he'll explain it more later, and that Minjun will get a proper briefing. Anyway, the program has two-person teams entering a facility filled with monsters they have to eliminate on their way to the end point. While the monsters aren't huge threats, the catch is that they're fast-moving targets, and they will fight back. On top of that, civilian plates pop up unexpectedly, and hitting even one of them counts as a massive failure. Dongjin adds that the whole thing's monitored and controlled by the executives, so there's no real danger, but it simulates an actual combat scenario. The mention of real monster targets makes Minjun's heart race. This is exactly the kind of action he signed up for, a true level-up manhwa scenario. At the mess hall, the feast kicks off, and all the soldiers dive in like they haven't eaten in days. While digging into his plate, Minjun compliments Dongjin for landing 13 shots in a row, but Dongjin is still in disbelief over the newbie nailing 19. The nice guy turns a bit red, brushing it off, saying, "He's not that great, just had some experience." He then points out that Sergeant Lee Young-ho is the real monster around here, hitting a consistent 17 shots on average, making him the top shooter in the squad. That little detail hits Minjun. If the numbers are right, he's now officially the #1 shooter in the unit. Dongjin has no doubt in his mind that Minjun's going to crush it in the special firearms training, too. Curious about the two-person team setup, Minjun asks if Dongjin is going to be his partner, but Dongjin explains the teams are picked by the executives, so there's no telling who'll be paired up with whom. When asked, team assignments are apparently handled through a thorough ladder lottery. At the special firearms shooting range, the squad gets 5 minutes to gear up before the training kicks off. Out of nowhere, Guangshuk bellows that he's been paired up with the newbie, claiming it's going to be a massive mismatch because a sergeant and a private are worlds apart. Minjun now sees this loudmouth as his partner, and by the looks of it, the guy hasn't learned a thing. Still stuck in hazing mode, this loafer smugly informs Minjun that the average finish time for their squad is 3 minutes. Then this creeper throws in a warning, saying, if Minjun doesn't finish under that time, he'll regret it. Minjun says nothing, which makes Guangshik assume the rookie's confidence is shot. He even mocks him, calling the 19 hits from earlier pure dumb luck. Minjun pegs him as a lost cause, but still calmly says he'll do his best. Guangshik won't let up, saying if the newbie finishes slower than him, he's dead. Meet. After that, he tells Minjun to watch the team ahead of them and see how it's done. Kim Ji calls the first round of shooters, Sergeant Mongji in Lane 1, and Sergeant Hanyang in Lane 2. Hanyang. Both are ready to roll, stepping into their individual elevators and descending underground. Facility. Officially kicking off the training. The setup is tactical monster elimination, while also protecting civilian plates inside a closed-off area. But let's be real, it's basically a competition between the troops. The main goal is to clear the course fast and slam that red button before the other guy does. The monster icons get bigger based on the creature's danger level. The nastier the monster, the bigger the icon. Guangshik tells Minjun this whole level-up manhwa setup should give him an idea of what he's getting into. Each lane has 2 monsters, and since it's totally random, no one knows what they're up against until they're face-to-face. Inside, a massive rake toad lunges at Mongji, trying to swallow him whole. Minjun notices Mongji had a faster start on Lane 1, but with that beast in his path, the poor guy might lose his lead. Meanwhile, on Lane 2, Hanyang starts by taking down a monster rat, thinking it's going to be a smooth run, but as he speeds up, a giant worm slithers in and completely blocks him off. Mongji, on the other hand, is losing it in full rage mode, straight up butchering both rake toads like a beast. The dude figures the other guy must have already finished since those toads caused such a delay, but it turns out to be the other way around. Mongji bolts to the red button and slams it, claiming his win at 2 minutes and 24 seconds. Everyone around erupts in cheers while talking about Hanyang's awful luck for drawing a desert worm. Mongji doesn't waste a second teasing Hanyang, saying at that pace he's better off not defending the nation at all. He also reminds him that it's his treat at the store. Hanyang grits his teeth, muttering that Mongji just got lucky. But Mongji saw everything, and points out that Hanyang even shot a civilian plate, so he would have been disqualified anyway. While those two keep bickering, Guangshik notices their little bet, which sparks an idea in Minjun's head. He suggests they make a bet, too, where the loser has to grant the winner's wish. Man to man. Guangshik laughs in his face, thinking this newbie got cocky just because the seniors went a little easy on him. Still, the big gorilla agrees, but says he has no real wish that a private like Minjun could ever grant. Instead, he jokes he'd rather just get his salary for the next 3 months. Minjun pegs him for a simple, money-hungry guy, but locks in the bet anyway. Dongjin on the side is getting more nervous by the second. Kim Mjun calls the next group, and Minjun steps up to face Guangshik as they descend into the facility. Minjun's already kicking himself for falling for that cheap provocation, knowing it's usually best to keep a low profile. Still, he just can't sit still when someone pokes at him. Outside, the crowd is buzzing, hyped to see a sergeant actually make a bet with a private during training. Some even joke if Guangshik will have to jump in and save the newbie. A monster. Then suddenly, a tremor hits, shaking everyone to their bones. Heads snap around, but nobody knows squat. What in the world? Down below, Mjun freezes for a sec, confused by the quake, then his eyes bug out as he spots a gnarly, one-eyed freak munching on a cat like it's a bag of chips, and the whole scene is seriously gross. The Cyclops just tosses the half-eaten rat aside and locks its hungry eye on its next target, Minjun. The guy sighs internally, thinking, man, what a pain. He then recalls his dinner plans involved fried chicken, which means he needs to wrap this up, like, now. Still, he pauses for a sec, thinking it would suck if he got careless and accidentally popped a civilian instead of the monster. As the monster charges in to attack, Mjun wonders why this grumpy thing is going totally postal like that. The fight starts for real, and Minjun goes into serious mode, like in a level-up manhwa, pouring demonic energy into every hit. One solid punch to the gut stuns the beast for a second, and Minjun figures all that's left now is to end this with a bullet. But then, right before his eyes, things get crazy. The monster's mangled hand completely regenerates in seconds. Meanwhile, the others nearby are freaking out, asking if the rookie is really fighting something. They're trying to see if there was an accident. Kim Mjun's brain is about to short-circuit as he pieces it all together. The rookie is fighting a Cyclops that somehow broke out of the second lane. And it's not just any Cyclops. That thing is a devouring demon. After it absorbs energy, the Cyclops' regeneration and attack power skyrocket until its digestion phase is over. But something feels completely off. This type of monster doesn't usually attack unless it's cornered. What's even weirder is that it went nuts after eating another monster. The whole situation makes zero sense. This brute shouldn't be losing its mind like this. Meanwhile, Mjun is in the thick of it, trading punches with the beast like it's a regular Tuesday. The guy is fully aware this was supposed to be firearms training, not some live boss battle. Still, he's not holding back one bit. He unloads a volley of bullets straight into the monster's head, his aim totally relentless. A couple of well-aimed shots shred its eye, and Mjun notices something. The eye regenerates much slower than the rest. That's his weak spot. He moves like a phantom, dodging every swing with incredible reflexes. But even blind, the Cyclops' attack speed doesn't slow down at all. That's the truly creepy part. Mjun dodges like a pro, but the monster keeps tracking him, but not by sight. He figures it's picking up his sound or scent, or worse, maybe it's reacting to his demonic energy. That must be the trigger. Back on the sidelines, Kim Mi, fully geared up, watches the chaos unfold with a rising sense of guilt. He can't figure out how things went so wrong, but he blames himself for this whole screw-up. No regular private should be fighting an energy-fueled Cyclops. Even armed, that's a total suicide mission. Deep down, all Mi can do is hope Minjun survives, praying the rookie can just hang on. Mi takes off, rushing in with everything he's got to provide backup. Meanwhile, Corporal Kim Guangshik is bolting for the button, positive he'd clock in at 2 minutes and 30 seconds. He was so full of himself, thinking Minjun could never match his speed, and had probably already washed out, just as he figured. He even joked to himself about spending the kid's salary on vacation. This jerk is getting a real kick out of this. But when Corporal Kim Guangshik reaches the destination, his face drains of all color, seeing the kid casually standing by the button. Minjun shoots a look at Sergeant Guangshik and laughs in his face with a smug look, coolly pressing the red button. That stunt wiped the smirk off Guangshik's face, who's sweating buckets over losing a bet to a rookie.